we had a special guest who introduced you guys. Can you guys both give us some insight into Bethany Balcer and what and how maybe you helped get her to the next level, or is this just she is a hard worker who worked her way to the best?
I'll start, Jeremy, and you can take the latter stages. All right. So perfect. Beth's sister played for me here at Spring Arbor. That's how I met her. She was 5'2" when I met her, and gangly and very clumsy. But you could see inside of her that there was a lot, that she had a lot going for her. We were able to sign her early in her junior year and nabbed her up before. I mean, she was already scoring a lot of goals, but in her senior year, she really exploded as a high school player. And we already had the deal signed at that point. So she came to Spring Arbor, was the NAIA Player of the Year as a freshman, which had never been done before, led us to a national championship. Now, granted, she had great players around her also, but, she was the piece that took us to the top. And I've just developed a great relationship with Bethany through the years. And it's halfway through her college career, I think maybe she was at, it might have been the summer before she played for Grand Rapids. She came into my office one day and said, "Coach, do I need to leave Spring Arbor if I'm going to be a pro?" And I said, Beth, that's a tough question. We'd have a lot of players that had gone on and played in Europe, in Germany and Sweden and places like that. But we had never put anybody in the NWSL. Nobody had done that from the NAIA level. And I said, we want you to be here. You're a huge piece of who we are. But if you need to go on, I'll help you go on to a bigger school if that's what you need to do. But the thing that's really unique about Bethany is that she was here for more than, it wasn't just soccer that brought her to Spring Arbor. This place fits her really well as a person. And she has a really, she sees things from a bigger perspective than just soccer. And so she was in a couple days later and she said, "Coach, I want to stay at Spring Arbor. I want to be a pro." And I said, "All right, well, let's start working on how to do that." So the first summer we got her hooked up with Grand Rapids. Lansing didn't have a team at that point. She went over there, and I remember there were several players from my team that went over to the tryouts. Grand Rapids was just starting their women's team up. And the coach at the time was like, "Yeah, I don't know that she's going to play." And I was like, okay. I knew what she could do. So she got out there in the first couple matches. She played wide in the wide midfield and just got a few minutes. And then they put her at the target forward. And she scored 5 consecutive hat tricks in her first year with the team. And once they figured out that she just was a goal scoring machine, then of course it was Bethany this and Bethany that. And so the next year we tried to get her into a market where there would be, we wanted to get her out of Michigan, kind of out of the Midwest. And so we sent her out to Seattle. I have some contacts out there, and we got her in with the Sounders. And because there was an overlap at that point between the Reigns coaching staff and the Sounders coaching staff. And we wanted to get her in front of some people that could get her to the people she needed to see. She had a great year with the Sounders. We got her hooked up with some people while she was out there, and then worked her towards the draft the following year. She wasn't drafted. I know she was on a couple draft boards, which was cool. I was at the draft with her. And we got her a couple of invitations directly after that to camps. And that's where she took the torch and ran with it. She got out she's like, "I want to go to Seattle." She went to Chicago's camp, didn't get the right vibe there. She's like, "I want to go try Seattle." Went out there and met Vlatko Andonovski. And Vlatko is a similar mind. He's a great soccer mind, but he's a similar person probably to Jeremy and myself. He sees people and not players. And so he really gave her a shake where maybe some other coaches might not. And it's a funny story. If you're ever on the show, ask her about it, but she was almost cut after her first day but scored a nice goal, stayed in camp. And the rest is history. She's just a really hardworking kid and has a super high ceiling. So I think she's not even close to it yet. So that was my part in it. And at some point along the line, she needed a contract negotiated. And I called Jeremy and I was like, "Listen, man, I can help with the soccer connections. I know some people. I need you to take a look at her contracts. Can you help me out?" And he's like, "Sure, I'll talk to her." And I got them hooked up, and they're a great team as well. I think they're very like-minded also. So Jeremy, that's my part of it.
Yeah. And, I had some experience on the professional side as the vice president and general manager of Lansing Ignite in USL League One. And part of what my duties there were handling the contracts of all of our players. So I was familiar with what a professional soccer contract looked like and some of the different things that on both sides that you would want to look at, whether you were on the club side or you were on the player side. And so when Jason mentioned, we get together and Bethany and I sat down and talked, and, I realized what her goals were. I said, I'd be happy to help you. And I think, as we went through that process with her, it was a learning experience for both of us, but a really good one. And, Bill Predmore and the folks with OL Reign have done a great job out there and have treated Beth very well. At the time, we signed a 4-year contract for her. And I still think that's the longest contract that any player's ever signed in the NWSL. So, again, I feel very fortunate to get a chance to work with her on a daily basis. I mean, Jason touched on some of her traits. She is so driven. And, I think, again, working with people like that kind of helps keep you motivated. Certainly keeps me young and keeps me want to keep going and help her. So my role for her is really just, that of an advisor, to make sure that, she has all the off the field stuff taken care of so that she can focus on what she needs to do on the field. And that's really where I come in and try and help her.